Captain Jake Morrison stared at his screen and rubbed his tired eyes. He had been watching the stars for 12 hours straight. The monitoring station was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines. Outside the thick windows, the planet Kepler 442b spun slowly below them. Jake took a sip of his cold coffee and made a face. It tasted awful, but he needed to stay awake. His job was to watch for ships coming into the system. Most days, nothing happened. Trade ships came and went. Military patrols passed by. Everything was normal and boring, but today felt different. The Zephyrian Empire was celebrating its 500th anniversary. All across the 12 star systems, people were having parties and parades. The Empire ruled over dozens of alien worlds. It had the biggest military force in the galaxy. Everyone said it would last forever. Jake's screen beeped. A small dot appeared at the edge of his sensors. He leaned forward and adjusted the controls. The dot was moving toward them, but it was still very far away. Probably just another trade ship, Jake said to himself. He had seen thousands of them over the years. They all looked the same on his screen, but as the dot got closer, Jake frowned. The ship's energy reading was strange. It did not match any ship in the Empire's database. Jake had never seen anything like it. He pressed a button on his desk. "Control, this is Morrison. I have an unknown contact approaching the system." A voice crackled through the speaker. "Copy that, Morrison? Can you identify the ship type?" Jake looked at his screen again. The readings made no sense. "Negative, Control. The energy signature is unlike anything in our files. Stand by, Morrison." Jake waited and watched the mysterious ship get closer. It was moving at a steady speed, not too fast or too slow. It seemed to know exactly where it was going. 20 minutes later, Admiral Lisa Kane's voice came through the radio. She commanded the 3rd Battle Fleet, which was stationed nearby. "Morrison, this is Admiral Kane. I'm seeing your contact on our long-range sensors. We're moving to intercept." "Yes, Admiral." "The ship is still not responding to any identification requests." Admiral Kane's fleet consisted of 200 ships. They were some of the most powerful vessels in the Empire. Each one could destroy a small planet. Jake felt better knowing they were on their way. Dr. Peter Ross arrived at the monitoring station an hour later. He was a thin man with gray hair and thick glasses. He studied old alien civilizations and knew more about space history than almost anyone. "Show me what you found," Dr. Ross said as he walked up to Jake's station. Jake pointed at his screen. "Here's the ship. Look at these energy readings. They don't match anything we know." Dr. Ross studied the data carefully. His eyes grew wide. "This is impossible. These readings suggest technology that shouldn't exist." "What do you mean?" "The power output is enormous, but the ship appears to be only cruiser-sized. Our biggest dreadnoughts don't produce energy signatures like this." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Could it be some kind of weapon? "I don't know, but I've seen similar patterns in very old records. There are stories about civilizations that existed before the Empire. Most people think they're just myths." On the capital world of Zephyria Prime, Emperor Voss III sat on his golden throne. He was a large man with cold eyes and a cruel smile. The throne room was filled with his advisors and generals. General Marcus Webb stood at attention in front of the Emperor. He was the head of the Imperial military. "Your Majesty, we have reports of an unknown ship entering the capital system." "Emperor." Voss waved his hand dismissively. "One ship? Why are you bothering me with this?" "The ship's origins are unknown, Your Majesty. It doesn't match any known design." "So what? We have 10,000 ships in our fleet. One unknown vessel is nothing to worry about." General Webb shifted uncomfortably. Admiral Kane has moved to. Intercept with 200 ships. Good. Destroy it if it causes any trouble. Now, what about the anniversary celebrations? Are the people enjoying themselves? Yes, Your Majesty. The parades are going well. The citizens are happy. The Emperor smiled. Excellent. 500 years of rule, and we're stronger than ever. No force in the galaxy can challenge us. Back at the monitoring station, Jake watched Admiral Kane's fleet surround the mysterious ship. The Imperial vessels formed a perfect circle around the unknown craft. It was a standard tactical formation designed to prevent any ship from escaping. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Kane of the Imperial Navy. Identify yourself immediately. The Admiral's voice echoed through space. The mysterious ship remained silent. It continued moving forward at the same steady pace. It showed no signs of stopping or turning away. Dr. Ross stood next to Jake, studying the readings. Look at this. The ship's hull is reflecting our scanner beams. It's like it's made of some kind of mirror material. Is that possible? Not with our technology. But these readings suggest the ship is using principles we don't understand. Admiral Kane tried again. Unknown vessel, you are entering restricted space. Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. Still no response. Jake watched his screen. As the mysterious ship continued forward, the Imperial fleet moved to block its path, but the ship didn't slow down or change course. It's like they don't care about our fleet, Jake said quietly. Dr. Ross nodded. Or maybe they're not afraid of it. The thought sent another chill through Jake. What kind of ship wouldn't fear 200 Imperial warships? Communications officer Amy Turner was on Admiral Kane's flagship. She had been trying to contact the unknown ship for hours. Admiral, I'm detecting faint signals from inside the vessel, but I can't translate them. What kind of signals? They appear to be in an unknown language, but there are mathematical patterns. It might be some kind of code. Admiral Kane studied the mysterious ship through her view screen. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. The hull was smooth and dark, with no visible weapons or engines. It looked almost organic. How long until we reach intercept range? She asked. 15 minutes, Admiral. Good. If they won't talk, we'll board them and find out what they want. But deep down, Admiral Kane felt uneasy. Something about this ship was very wrong. It shouldn't exist, yet here it was. And it was heading straight for the heart of the Empire. As the mysterious ship drew closer, Jake noticed something else on his screens. The ship's energy signature was changing. It was like the vessel was waking up from a long sleep. Dr. Ross, look at this. The power readings are increasing. Dr. Ross studied the data with growing alarm. This is impossible. The energy output has doubled in the last 5 minutes. What does that mean? I don't know. But I think we're about to find out. The mysterious ship continued its steady approach toward the Imperial fleet. Whatever it was, wherever it came from, it was about to make contact with the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Jake Morrison watched his screens and wondered if this was the beginning of something terrible. Or perhaps something wonderful. Either way, he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The Empire's 500th anniversary celebration was about to become something very different. Something that would change the course of galactic history forever. Admiral Lisa Kane stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Dominion. Around her, officers worked quietly at their stations. Through the main view screen, she could see the mysterious ship floating in space. It looked small compared to her massive fleet, but something about it made her nervous. Distance to target? She asked. 5,000 kilometers, Admiral, replied Lieutenant Commander Steve Adams. He was her tactical officer and had served with her for 10 years. Any response to our hails? Communications Officer Amy Turner shook her head. Nothing, Admiral. The ship remains completely silent. Admiral Kane studied the unknown vessel. It was roughly the size of a cruiser, but its design was unlike anything in Imperial records. The hull was smooth and dark, almost black. There were no visible weapons or engine ports. It looked more like a piece of art than a warship. Sensors. What can you tell me about the ship's composition? She asked. Chief Science Officer Rachel Green looked up from her console. It's difficult to get clear readings, Admiral. The hull appears to be made of an unknown metallic compound. Our scanners are having trouble penetrating it. Unknown metal? Yes, Admiral. It's reflecting our sensor beams like a mirror. I've never seen anything like it. Admiral Kane frowned. In her 20 years of service, she had encountered dozens of alien species and their technologies. But this was different. This was something completely new. Admiral, Amy Turner called out, I'm detecting faint transmissions from inside the vessel. Very weak, but there's definitely something there. Can you translate them? I'm trying, but it's in a completely unknown language. The structure is unlike anything in our databases. Doctor, Peter Ross had been granted permission to observe from the bridge. He stepped forward. Admiral, may I take a look at those transmissions? Of course, Doctor. Dr. Ross studied Amy's console. The signals appeared as wave patterns on the screen. They pulsed in regular intervals, like a heartbeat. These patterns, Dr. Ross said quietly, they remind me of something I've seen before. Very old records from the Empire's early expansion. Period. What kind of records? Most of them were classified long ago. But there are references to encounters with unknown species during the first century of expansion. Admiral Kane turned to face him. Are you suggesting this ship is from one of those species? It's possible, though I thought they were all extinct. Before Dr. Ross could say more, the mysterious ship suddenly changed. The smooth hull began to shift and transform. Hidden panels slid open, revealing weapon ports and defensive systems. The ship's energy signature spiked dramatically. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Adams shouted, the target is powering up weapons. All ships, battle stations. Admiral Kane commanded, raise shields and prepare for combat. Across the fleet, 200 Imperial warships activated their defensive systems. Weapon batteries swiveled toward the mysterious ship. The space around them crackled with energy. Then, without warning, a transmission came through on all frequencies. The voice was clear and spoke perfect Zephyrian. You have enslaved the innocent. Your empire ends today. The voice was calm and steady, but there was something in it that made Admiral Kane's blood run cold. It was not anger or hatred. It was certainty. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Kane. Identify yourself immediately. The response came quickly. I am Commander Ryan Phillips of the Earth vessel Retribution. You will surrender your fleet and submit to judgment. Earth? Dr. Ross whispered. I've never heard of such a place. Admiral Kane activated her communicator. Commander Phillips, I don't know what Earth is, but you are outnumbered 200 to 1. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You misunderstand the situation, Admiral. You are not hunting me. I am hunting you. Before Admiral Kane could respond, the Retribution attacked. The first weapon it fired was unlike anything the Imperials had ever seen. It appeared as a bright blue beam that seemed to bend space around it. The beam struck the Imperial cruiser Vengeance, and the ship simply vanished. What happened to the Vengeance? Admiral Kane demanded. It's gone. Admiral, Adams replied, his voice shaking. The ship just disappeared. The Retribution fired again. This time, 3 Imperial ships were hit by what looked like silver spheres. The spheres passed through the ship's shields as if they weren't there. When they made contact with the hulls, the ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. All ships open fire. Admiral Kane commanded. The Imperial fleet unleashed everything they had. Laser cannons, plasma torpedoes, and missile batteries all fired at once. The space around the Retribution filled with deadly energy, but the weapons never reached their target. The mysterious ship was surrounded by a shimmering barrier that absorbed every shot. The barrier rippled like water when the weapons hit it, but it never broke. "Admiral, our weapons are having no effect," Adams reported. "That's impossible. Nothing can withstand that much firepower." The Retribution continued its attack. Its weapons seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Some shots curved around obstacles to hit targets behind cover. Others split into multiple beams that struck several ships at once. Within minutes, 50 Imperial ships had been destroyed. The survivors began to retreat, but the Retribution was faster than anything they had ever seen. It moved through space like a living thing, dodging between ships and striking with deadly precision. Captain Danny Rodriguez commanded the heavy cruiser Executor. He watched in horror as the Retribution destroyed ship after ship. His crew was terrified. "Sir, what are our orders?" asked his first officer. "Hold position. We can't abandon the Admiral." But Rodriguez knew they were facing something beyond their understanding. The Retribution's technology was centuries ahead of anything the Empire possessed. On the monitoring station, Jake Morrison watched the battle with growing horror. The Imperial fleet was being destroyed, and there was nothing he could do about it. "Dr. Ross, what is that thing?" he asked. Dr. Ross stared at the readings on Jake's screen. "I think it's exactly what Commander Phillips said it was. A ship from Earth. But where is Earth? Why isn't it in our databases? I don't know, but I intend to find out." Admiral Kane realized the battle was lost. Half her fleet was gone, and the Retribution showed no signs of slowing down. She had to make a choice. All ships retreat to the outer system. We need to regroup and warn the capital. "Admiral, what about the survivors?" Amy Turner asked. "We'll come back for them. But first, we need to tell the Emperor what we're dealing with." As the Imperial fleet retreated, the Retribution stopped its attack. It made no attempt to pursue the fleeing ships. Instead, it broadcast another message. "This is Commander Ryan Phillips. I am transmitting the coordinates of your survivors. Rescue them, and remember what you have seen here today. The Empire's crimes will not go unpunished." The message ended, and the Retribution resumed its course toward the capital system. It moved slowly, as if it had all the time in the world. Admiral Kane sat in her command chair, shaking. She had fought in dozens of battles, but nothing had prepared her for this. The Retribution had destroyed 50 warships in minutes, and could have destroyed the rest just as easily. "Admiral," Rachel Green said quietly, "I've been analyzing the battle data. The Retribution's weapons appear to manipulate space-time itself." "What does that mean?" "It means they have technology that our scientists say is impossible. They can bend reality to their will." Admiral Kane closed her eyes. She had to warn the Emperor, but how could she explain what she had seen? How could she tell him that a single ship had defeated half her fleet? "Set course for Zephyria Prime," she ordered. "Maximum speed." "Yes, Admiral." As the Dominion raced toward the capital, Admiral Kane tried to understand what had just happened. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 500 years. It had the most powerful military force in known space. How could one ship threaten all of that? And who were these humans from Earth? Dr. Ross worked frantically at his portable computer. He was searching through every database he could access, looking for any reference to Earth or humans. So far, he had found nothing. "It's as if they never existed," he said to himself. "But that's impossible. You can't hide an entire species." Jake Morrison continued to monitor the Retribution as it moved through the system, The ship's energy readings were incredible. It was generating more power than a small star. Dr. Ross, I think you should see this, Jake said. Dr. Ross looked at Jake's screen. The Retribution was sending out some kind of signal. It was very weak, but it was definitely there. What is it? I'm not sure. But it looks like it's trying to communicate with something. Or someone, Dr. Ross said quietly. The signal continued. For several minutes, then stopped. The Retribution resumed its course toward the capital, leaving behind the wreckage of the Imperial fleet. Admiral Kane reached Zephyria Prime 12 hours later. She requested an immediate audience with the Emperor. The meeting was held in the war room deep beneath the Imperial Palace. Emperor, Voss 3 listened to her report with growing disbelief. You're telling me that one ship destroyed 50 of our warships? Yes, Your Majesty. The Retribution is unlike anything we've ever encountered. And this Commander Phillips claims to be from a place called Earth? That's correct, Your Majesty. General Marcus Webb stepped forward. Your Majesty, I find this report hard to believe. No single ship could possess such power. I saw it with my own eyes. Emperor Voss 3 stood in his war room, surrounded by maps of the galaxy. Red dots showed the positions of his fleets. Blue dots marked the Empire's 12 star systems. But now there was a new dot on the map. A single black dot that represented the Retribution. Grand Admiral Tony Clark, the Emperor called out. A tall man with gray hair and cold eyes stepped forward. Tony Clark was the Empire's most experienced commander. He had led the conquest of 6 star systems and destroyed countless rebel fleets. Your Majesty, Clark said with a bow, I want you to take every available ship and destroy this Retribution. Use whatever force is necessary. How many ships am I authorized to use? All of them. Take the entire fleet if you must. Clark nodded. It will be done, Your Majesty. As Clark left to prepare the fleet, Minister Helen Brooks approached the Emperor. She was in charge of the Empire's propaganda machine. Her job was to keep the people happy and loyal. Your Majesty, news of the defeat is spreading. The people are starting to ask questions. What kind of questions? They want to know how one ship could destroy 50 of our warships. Some are beginning to doubt the Empire's strength. Emperor Voss frowned. Then make them stop doubting. Tell them it was a minor incident. A single terrorist attack that will be dealt with quickly. Yes, Your Majesty. But what if the Retribution attacks again? It won't matter. Clark will destroy it before it can cause more damage. But even as the Emperor spoke, the Retribution was already moving to its next target. The ship had left the capital system and was heading toward the Altair system, home to 3 billion Imperial citizens. Commander Ryan Phillips stood on the bridge of the Retribution. The bridge was different from any Imperial ship. The walls were covered with screens showing stars and planets. The crew worked quietly at stations that seemed to respond to their thoughts. Status report, Phillips said. Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Davis was his second in command. She had been with him for over 30 years. All systems are operating normally, Commander. We should reach the Altair system in 6 hours. Good. Have you prepared the Liberation broadcast? Yes, sir. We're ready to transmit to all inhabited worlds in the system. Phillips nodded. The Liberation broadcast was crucial to their mission. They were not here to conquer, but to free the people who had been enslaved by the Empire. Commander, called out Major Kevin Wright from the communications station. I'm detecting heavy Imperial fleet movements. It looks like they're massing for a major attack. How many ships? At least 5,000, sir. Maybe more. Phillips smiled grimly. They're taking us seriously now. In the Altair system, Governor, Paul Martinez received an urgent message from the capital. The Emperor was ordering all civilians to remain in their homes. Military forces were to be on high alert. Martinez was confused. The message mentioned a terrorist attack, but it gave no details. He decided to contact his military commander. Colonel Janet Foster, what's the situation? Governor, I'm not entirely sure. Imperial Command is being very secretive. All I know is that a single ship is supposedly threatening the entire Empire. That's ridiculous. How can one ship threaten the Empire? I don't know, sir. But they're taking it seriously enough to mobilize the entire fleet. As they spoke, the Retribution entered the Altair system. It moved slowly, broadcasting a message on all frequencies. People of the Altair system, this is Commander Ryan Phillips. I bring word of freedom. For too long, you have lived under the tyranny of the Zephyrian Empire. Today, that changes. The message was broadcast in dozens of languages. Every radio, television, and communication device in the system carried Phillips' words. We are not your enemies. We are your liberators. Rise up and claim your freedom. The Empire's power is an illusion. They cannot protect you from us, and they cannot protect themselves. Governor Martinez listened to the broadcast with growing alarm. Colonel Foster, we need to stop this transmission immediately. I'm trying, Governor, but the signal is too strong. It's overriding all our communication systems. The Retribution moved toward the system's main orbital defense platform. The platform was massive, armed with hundreds of weapons, and protected by powerful shields. It was considered impregnable. Captain Danny Rodriguez had been transferred to the platform after the defeat at the Capitol. He commanded the station's defense systems and had orders to destroy the Retribution on sight. All weapons, target the unknown ship, Rodriguez commanded. The platform's weapons fired simultaneously. Plasma cannons, laser batteries, and missile launchers all struck the Retribution at once. The space around the ship filled with explosions, but when the smoke cleared, the Retribution was undamaged. Its shields had absorbed the entire attack without even flickering. Impossible, Rodriguez whispered. Nothing can withstand that much firepower. The Retribution responded with a single shot. A beam of golden light struck the platform's main reactor. The massive station shuddered and began to break apart. All hands abandon ship, Rodriguez shouted. This is not a drill. Within minutes, the orbital platform was destroyed. The Retribution had eliminated the system's primary defense. With one shot, on the planet below, people watched in shock as the platform exploded. The Empire's invincible defenses had been destroyed in seconds. The Retribution moved to the next target, the system's maximum security prison. The prison held thousands of political prisoners, people who had dared to speak out against the Empire. Dr. Peter Ross had been working non-stop in the Imperial archives. He had found references to something called the Earth Files, but the records were heavily classified. He needed higher security clearance to access them. Jake, I need your help. Dr. Ross said over the communicator. Jake Morrison was still at his monitoring station. What can I do, Doctor? I need you to contact Admiral Kane. Tell her I've found something important, but I need access to the classified archives. I'll try, but she's been in meetings with the Emperor all day. This is important, Jake. I think I'm close to finding out who these humans really are. While Ross searched for answers, the Retribution continued its work. The ship approached the prison and began scanning the facility. Commander, Nancy Davis reported, I'm detecting over 3,000 life signs. In the prison, most appear to be in poor condition. They've been tortured, Phillips said grimly. The Empire's standard procedure for political prisoners. Orders, sir? Free them, all of them. The Retribution used a new weapon, a being that could disintegrate matter at the molecular level. The prison's walls simply vanished, leaving the unished. Prisoners free to escape, but the Retribution did more than just destroy the walls. It also transmitted the locations of hidden Imperial bases and weapon stockpiles to the freed prisoners. Within hours, a full-scale rebellion was underway. Governor Martinez tried to contact the capital for help, but the Retribution was jamming all communications. The Empire's local forces were outnumbered and outgunned by the rebels. Colonel Foster. "We need to evacuate," Martinez said. "Where can we go?" "The rebels control the spaceport. Then we surrender. Better to live as prisoners than die as heroes." Meanwhile, Grand Admiral Clark's fleet was racing toward the Altair system. 5,000 ships, the largest force the Empire had ever assembled, was converging on the Retributions. "Position." "Admiral," called out Captain Mike Johnson from the flagship's bridge. "We'll reach the Altair system in 2 hours." "Good. Signal all ships to prepare for battle. We're going to hit them with everything we have." Clark was confident. No ship, no matter how advanced, could survive an attack from 5,000 vessels. The Retribution would be destroyed, and the Empire's reputation would be restored. But as Clark's fleet approached, the Retribution was already moving to its next target. The ship had completed its mission in the Altair system and was heading toward the Vega system. "Commander," Kevin Wright reported, "I'm detecting the Imperial fleet. They're moving fast, but they're heading for our last position." "Let them come," Phillips said. "By the time they realize we're not there, we'll have freed 2 more systems." The Retribution strategy was simple but effective. Hit and run. Free the prisoners, destroy the defenses, and move on before the Empire could respond. Each successful. Attack weakened the Empire's control and encouraged more rebellions. Dr. Ross finally got his meeting with Admiral Kane. They met in a secure room deep beneath the Imperial Palace. "Doctor, you said you found something important," Kane said. "I did. I found references to the Earth files in the classified archives. But I need your security clearance to access them." "What are the Earth files?" "I don't know yet. But they're connected to the early expansion period, 500 years ago." Kane frowned. 500 years ago was when the Empire first began. Its expansion. But there are very few records from that time. That's what makes this so important. The Earth files might tell us who these humans really are. Kane made a decision. "I'll help you access the files. But we need to be careful. The Emperor doesn't like people digging into old records." As they worked to unlock the archives, Admiral Clark's fleet reached the Altair system. They found the orbital platform destroyed and the prison emptied. The Retribution was gone. "Where did it go?" Clark demanded. "Sir, we're detecting similar attacks in the Vega system." "The unknown. Ship appears to be moving rapidly between systems." Clark realized he was chasing a ghost. The Retributio. Dr. Peter Ross sat in the deepest level of the Imperial Palace, surrounded by ancient files and dusty computers. The Forbidden's archives stretched out in all directions, filled with secrets the Empire had tried to forget. Next to him, Admiral Lisa Kane read through classified documents with growing shock. "This is impossible," Kane said quietly. "The Empire has always taught us that we were the first advanced civilization in the galaxy." Ross looked up from his screen. "According to these files, that's a lie. The galaxy was full of advanced species when the Empire began its expansion. Then what happened to them? The Empire destroyed them." "Every single one?" Kane felt sick. She had spent her entire life serving the Empire, believing they were bringing order to the galaxy. Now she was learning the truth. They were conquerors who had committed genocide on an unimaginable scale. "Keep reading," Ross said grimly. "It gets worse." The files told a story of systematic destruction. The Empire had started small, with just a few ships and a handful of worlds. But they had a weapon that no other species possessed: complete ruthlessness. They showed no mercy to anyone who opposed them. "Look at this," Ross said, pointing to a file marked Species Elimination Protocols. They didn't just defeat other civilizations. They wiped them out completely. Every man, woman, and child. Kane read the document with horror. It was a step-by-step guide for destroying entire species. First, destroy their military. Then, eliminate their governments. Finally, kill all survivors to prevent future resistance. How could anyone do this? Kane whispered, because they believed they were superior. The Empire's founders thought they were destined to rule the galaxy. Ross opened another file. This one was marked Earth First Contact Report. Kane leaned over to read it. The date on this file is exactly 500 years ago. Ross said the report described the Empire's first encounter with humanity. It was written by Admiral Marcus Kane, Lisa's ancestor. The report was short and matter-of-fact. Species designation: human, home world, Earth, technology level, primitive. Threat assessment: minimal. Recommendation: mark for future colonization. Kane stared at the report. My ancestor wrote this. He was there when the Empire first met the humans. Keep reading, Ross urged. The report continued. The humans showed curiosity about our technology, but posed no immediate threat. Their ships are slow and poorly armed. Their world has valuable resources, but can be taken easily when convenient. But there was more. A second report, written months later, told a different story. Warning: human species shows unexpected adaptability. Small group escaped initial contact in experimental vessels. Recommend immediate pursuit and elimination. Kane felt a chill run down her spine. They escaped? Not all of them. Look at this. Ross opened a video file. The screen showed a blue and green planet surrounded by space. Then, without warning, the planet exploded in a massive fireball. They destroyed Earth, Kane said in shock. The report says they used a planet-killer weapon. They turned the human homeworld into an asteroid field. Kane watched the video again. Billions of people had died in seconds. An entire world destroyed because a few humans had escaped. But if they destroyed Earth, how is the retribution here now? Ross opened more files, because some humans survived. Look at this intelligence report. The report was marked Classified Eyes Only. It described sightings of human ships in remote sectors of the galaxy. The Empire had sent hunter fleets to track them down, but the humans had vanished into deep space. They went into exile, Ross said. The survivors fled to the edge of the galaxy. The Empire thought they would die out there. Kane continued reading. The files showed that the Empire had spent decades hunting the human survivors. But the humans had learned to hide. They had developed new technologies to stay invisible. This is why there are no records of humans in our databases, Kane realized. The Empire erased everything. Not just erased. They made it illegal to even mention humans or Earth. Anyone who spoke about them was executed. Ross found another file labeled Memory Suppression Protocol. The Empire had gone to extreme lengths to hide what they had done. They had rewritten history books, destroyed records, and killed anyone who remembered the truth. They were terrified, Ross said. The Empire's leaders knew that if people learned about Earth, they would start asking questions about other destroyed worlds. Kane felt anger building inside her. Her entire life had been built on lies. The Empire she had served was not a force for order. It was a machine for destruction. Meanwhile, on his ship, Commander Ryan Phillips was preparing for the next phase of his mission. The Retribution had freed 6 star systems in the past week. Rebellions were spreading across the galaxy. Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Davis reported, "We're receiving signals from resistance groups in 8 more systems. They're requesting our help." Good. The people are starting to remember what freedom means. Major Kevin Wright looked up from his console. Sir, I'm also detecting increased Imperial fleet movements. They're trying to contain the rebellions. Phillips nodded. It's time for the next broadcast. Open a channel to all Imperial systems. Across the galaxy, every communication device suddenly activated. Phillips' voice reached billions of people on hundreds of worlds. Citizens of the galaxy, this is Commander Ryan Phillips. You have been told that I am a terrorist, but that is a lie. I am here to tell you the truth about your empire. On Zephyria, Prime Emperor Voss III watched the broadcast with rage. Cut the transmission, he shouted. We can't, Your Majesty, replied his communications officer. The signal is too strong. Phillips continued his broadcast. 500 years ago, your empire destroyed my homeworld of Earth. They killed billions of innocent people and tried to wipe out the human race completely. The Emperor turned to General Webb. This is lies, propaganda. But Webb was reading intelligence reports on his tablet. His face had gone pale. Your Majesty, our agents report that people are responding to the broadcast. They're starting to ask questions. Philip's voice filled the Emperor's throne room. But we survived. We have spent 5 centuries preparing for this moment. We have learned your weaknesses. We have built weapons you cannot imagine. And now we have returned. The Empire has taught you that they are your protectors, that they bring order to chaos. But they are liars. They are murderers. They have destroyed countless worlds and enslaved entire species. On a mining world in the Tau Ceti system, workers stopped their machines to listen. On Proxima Station, Imperial soldiers put down their weapons. On research colonies and trade worlds, people gathered around radios and screens. Rise up, Phillips urged them. Take back your freedom. The Empire is not invincible. We have proven that one ship has defeated their fleets. One ship has freed entire systems. Together, we can end their reign of terror forever. Back in the archives, Dr. Ross made another disturbing discovery. Admiral, look at this file. It's a list of destroyed worlds. Kane read the list with growing horror. There were hundreds of entries. Entire species that had been wiped out by the Empire. Andromedans, status extinct. Centaurians, status extinct. Draconians, status extinct. The list went on and on. They killed them all, Kane whispered. Every single one. Any species that refused to submit was destroyed completely. Ross opened another file. This one contained video records of the destructions. World after world reduced to rubble by Imperial fleets. How did no one know about this? Kane asked. Because the Empire made sure no one survived to tell the story. They killed entire populations and then rewrote history. Kane watched footage of Imperial ships bombarding peaceful planets. She saw cities burning and refugees fleeing. She saw children crying as their parents were executed. I've been serving monsters, she said quietly. We all have. The Empire has hidden this from everyone, even their own officers. Suddenly, Archivist Sam Carter burst into the room. He was an elderly man who had worked in the archives for 40 years. Dr. Ross, Admiral Kane, you need to see this immediately, Carter said, breathing heavily. What is it? Ross asked. I found another cache of files, hidden deeper than anything else. They're marked with the highest security classification. Carter led them to a vault they had never seen before. Inside were dozens of files marked Project Genesis. What's Project Genesis? Kane asked. Carter opened the first file. It's the Empire's plan for ultimate conquest. They want to destroy every other form of life in the galaxy. The files described a weapon capable of sterilizing entire star systems. The Empire had been working on it for centuries, using technology stolen from the species they had destroyed. They're planning to commit genocide on a galactic scale, Ross said in shock. When? Kane demanded. Carter checked the files. According to this, the weapon will be ready within a year. They call it the final solution. Kane felt sick. Not only had the Empire destroyed countless worlds in the past, they were planning to kill everything that remained. We have to stop this, she said. How? We're just 3 people against an entire empire. Before anyone could answer, alarms began, blaring throughout the palace. Red lights flashed in the corridors above them. What's happening? Carter asked. Kane activated her communicator. Control, this is Admiral Kane. What's the situation? Admiral, the Retribution has appeared in orbit around Zephyria Prime. It's broadcasting another messa. The sky above Zephyria Prime darkened as 3,000 Imperial ships moved into defensive positions. It was the largest fleet ever assembled, called back from across the galaxy for this final battle. Emperor Voss III had gambled everything. On this moment, Grand Admiral Tony Clark stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Around him, his officers prepared for the fight of their lives. Through the main view screen, he could see the Retribution floating alone in space. 1 ship against 3,000, Clark said to his tactical officer. This should be over quickly. But Captain Mike Johnson wasn't so sure. Admiral, our intelligence reports say this ship has destroyed over 200 Imperial vessels without taking any damage. Intelligence reports can be wrong, Captain. Nothing is invincible. Clark opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Grand Admiral Clark. Today, we face an enemy that threatens everything we hold dear. But we are the Imperial Navy. We have never been defeated, and we will not be defeated today. On the planet below, billions of people watched. The sky. Some supported the Empire, believing the propaganda they had been fed all their lives. Others hoped secretly that the mysterious ship would succeed. In the palace archives, Admiral Lisa Kane, Dr. Peter Ross, and Sam Carter continued studying the classified files. What they had discovered was even worse than they had imagined. Look at this, Carter said, pointing to a document marked Population Control Protocol. The Empire has been slowly poisoning the food supplies on conquered worlds. Why would they do that? Kane asked. To weaken the populations, make them easier to control. They've been committing slow genocide for centuries. Ross found another file that made his blood run cold. They've been experimenting on prisoners, using them to test biological weapons. Kane realized the full scope of the Empire's crimes. It wasn't just the destruction of Earth or the other worlds. The Empire had been systematically torturing and killing innocent people for 500 years. We have to get this information to Phillips, she said. How? We're trapped in the palace, and there's a battle starting above us. Before anyone could answer, Phillips' voice echoed across the planet again. But this time, he wasn't speaking to the Emperor. He was speaking to the people. Citizens of Zephyria Prime, I know many of you fear me. Your government has told you. I am a terrorist who wants to destroy your way of life. But I am here to offer you something your empire never has, the truth. Emperor Voss III stormed onto the bridge of his command ship. Why haven't you destroyed that ship yet? He demanded. Grand Admiral Clark looked uncomfortable. Your Majesty, we're still moving into position. I don't want excuses. I want that ship destroyed. Clark gave the order to attack. 3,000 ships opened fire simultaneously. The space around the Retribution filled with energy beams, plasma bolts, and missiles. It was the most devastating attack in galactic history. But when the weapons reached the Retribution, something impossible happened. The ship's shields didn't just absorb the attack. They reflected it back at the Imperial fleet, What just happened? Clark shouted. Sir, our own weapons are returning to us. The reflected energy struck the Imperial ships with devastating effect. Hundreds of vessels were destroyed by their own weapons. The survivors retreated in panic. Phillips spoke again, his voice calm despite the chaos. Emperor Voss, you have one final chance. Surrender now, and I will spare your fleets. Never, the Emperor screamed. All ships, attack pattern Gamma. Ram that ship if you have to. The remaining Imperial ships charged at the Retribution. But Phillips was ready for them. The human ship activated a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A wave of golden energy spread out from the Retribution. When it touched the Imperial ships, they simply stopped working. Their engines died, their weapons powered down, their life support systems failed. Sir, all our systems are offline. Johnson reported, we're dead in space. Clark stared at his instruments in disbelief. Every ship in the fleet had been disabled simultaneously. 3,000 vessels rendered helpless in an instant. How is this possible? He whispered. Phillips provided the answer in his next broadcast. The weapon I just used creates quantum disruptions in all electronic systems. Your ships are disabled but intact. Your crews are alive but powerless. This is my final offer, Emperor. Voss, surrender yourself for trial. Your crimes against the galaxy must be answered for. On the planet below, Emperor Voss III faced the end of his reign. His fleets were defeated, his weapons useless, but he refused to give up. If I cannot rule the galaxy, then no one will, he declared. The Emperor activated a hidden control panel in his throne room. Computer, initiate Project Genesis. A mechanical voice responded. Project Genesis activation requires confirmation from 3 senior officials. I am the Emperor. I override all protocols. Override accepted. Project Genesis weapon charging. Time to full power. 10 minutes. Dr. Ross heard the announcement and felt his blood turn to ice. He's activating the planet killer. He's going to destroy everything. Kane grabbed her communicator. All stations, this is Admiral Kane. The Emperor has activated Project Genesis. Repeat, Project Genesis is active, but it was too late. Deep beneath the palace, a massive weapon began to charge. When it fired, it would sterilize every world in the star system. Phillips heard the announcement as well. His ship's sensors detected the enormous energy buildup on the planet below. Commander, Nancy Davis reported, I'm reading a weapon signature, unlike anything in our databases. If that thing fires, it will kill everything in this system. How long do we have? 8 minutes, sir. Phillips made his decision. All hands, prepare for emergency descent. We're going down to the planet. The Retribution dropped through the atmosphere like a falling star. It landed in the palace courtyard with a thunderous crash, crushing the Emperor's gardens beneath its hull. Phillips and a small team of Marines left the ship and stormed into the palace. They moved quickly through the corridors, guided by their ship's sensors. They found Emperor Voss III in his throne room, standing next to the Project Genesis control panel. The Emperor was laughing maniacally. You're too late, he cried. In 5 minutes, this weapon will fire. It will destroy every living thing in 12 star systems. If I cannot have the galaxy, no one can. Phillips raised his weapon. Stand away from the controls. No, I am the Emperor. I will not be defeated by a primitive human. Before Phillips could respond, Admiral Kane burst into the room. Behind her were Dr. Ross and Sam Carter, carrying armloads of classified files. Commander Phillips, Kane called out, we have evidence of the Empire's crimes. Everything they've done is documented in these files. Phillips looked at her with suspicion. You're an Imperial officer. Why would you help me? Because I've learned. The truth. The Empire destroyed Earth. They've committed genocide against hundreds of species. They've been poisoning and experimenting on innocent people for centuries. Kane threw the files at Philip's feet. It's all there. Every murder, every destroyed world, every atrocity. The Empire is not what I thought it was. Phillips glanced at the files, then back at the Emperor. 3 minutes until that weapon fires. Can it be stopped? Yes, Ross said quickly. But only with the Emperor's genetic signature. Emperor Voss laughed again. I'll die before I help you. Phillips pointed his weapon at the Emperor's head. Then you'll die. But first, you'll stop that weapon. Kill me if you want. The weapon will still fire. Phillips lowered his weapon. He had spent 500 years planning this moment, but he wouldn't become a murderer to achieve victory. Instead, he turned to his ship's computer. Computer, can you hack the weapon's control system? Analyzing. Imperial encryption is primitive compared to our technology. I can disable the weapon in 30 seconds. Do it. The Emperor's face went pale as he realized his final weapon was being turned off. No, you can't do this. I am the ruler of the galaxy. Not anymore, Phillips said quietly. The Project Genesis weapon powered down with a low whine. The threat to the star system was over. Phillips turned to Admiral Kane. What do you intend to do now? Help you rebuild, she said firmly. The Empire must answer for its crimes. The people deserve to know the truth. Over the following days, the truth spread across the galaxy. The classified files were broadcast on every channel. People learned about the destroyed worlds, the genocide, the experiments. They learned about Earth and the humans who had survived against impossible odds. The reaction was swift and decisive. On world after world, people rose up against their imperial governors. The Empire's military forces, learning the truth about what they had been serving, laid down their weapons and joined the rebellion. Emperor Voss III was arrested and put on trial for crimes against sentient life. The evidence against him was overwhelming. He was found guilty and sentenced to spend the rest of his life working to repair the damage he had caused. Commander Phillips revealed that the retribution was not alone. Other human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the galaxy. But they came not as conquerors, but as partners in building a new civilization. The new Galactic Confederation was based on principles the Empire had never known: equality, justice, and freedom for all species. The humans shared their advanced technology freely, helping to rebuild the worlds the Empire had damaged. Dr. Ross became the Confay.